impacts you, or not how this movie impacts you, but how the Obamacare system impacts you. And we're going to talk a lot about what you can do to fix the situation. So this movie will be a bit of a downer, and then I'll try to pick you up starting at about 7:20, and it will go down some more as I explain how bad things are, and then I'll try to pick you back up and give you some hope that we can actually fix things. So.
And there'll be questioning time.
Yeah, lots of Q&A time, so we'll be here till about 1 or 2 in the morning. So without any further ado, let's roll the movie. Please don't throw anything at the screen.
Good to see you. The only way to fix the system is through a single-payer system like Canada, where we would severely restrict the private insurance market and have the government provide coverage for everybody.
Prayer, and then Bucky is going to lead us in the pledge afterwards. Please, everyone stand.
Everyone listen. Our Father's in heaven, Jesus our Savior, and our Holy Spirit, all praise and glory to you. We thank you for America and the liberties and blessings you have given us. We pray for you, to have mercy on the people. We ask you to bless us and guide us as we work to reclaim our country. We ask your blessings and protection on our military and families. And I pray in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'd like to introduce our LD1 officers. I'm your chairman, and our first vice chair is Judy Holster. And our second vice chair, Chuck Crum. And our secretary is in Mexico. And our treasurer, thank you. And then other elected special guests here tonight, we have our first speaker, Tom Jenny, and Mr. Shane Whitford is here helping. And we also have our new county assessor, Paul Peterson, who took the place of Keith Russell. So he'll be speaking to us also tonight. Do we have any other elected officials here tonight? We'd like you to stand up and introduce yourself. All right. The minutes were sent in the meeting notice, the 10-day meeting notice. Are there any corrections? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adopt them? Motion by Chuck. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. So next, the treasurer report. Cindy, that was also sent in the meeting notice. This is dated 11/9. Our previous balance was $315.21. Our room expense last month was $0 because the pastor has given us a free pass and we no longer have to pay $50 because he said he likes what we're doing here. Our income is we only made $20 from the raffle, $1 from book sale, and the ending balance was $336.51. We're still trying to raise money for LD1 for projects. Whenever we have a booth at the Anthem, whenever they're doing something up there, it costs like $300 just for a booth. So we do usually have a raffle, gift cards. Tonight we have something different. I just want to show you what it is. A friend of mine makes healthy dog treats, homemade healthy dog treats. They're not from China. They won't hurt your dog, like mine. So this is the basket. It's healthy dog treats for even if you don't have a dog, if you win this, you can give it as a nice gift to somebody you know who is a dog lover. She says all treats are made with brown rice, flour, oat flour, canola oil, and a little flaxseed. The cookies, they look like peanut butter cookies. But they're made, one set is made with chicken parmesan, another set is made with beef parmesan, and another set is made with peanut butter. Smells good. My dog loves these. So, set these up here for now. But if you'd like to help us with our raffle, 1 ticket for $1, 6 tickets for $5. All right? Next, we want to welcome our new precinct committeeman. And I'm going to call your name, and I'd like you to come up and receive a certificate and a name badge. So first, Herb Akdal. You can just stay up here because we want to get your picture. Stand tall. Sue Brimmer. Bruce Fulmer and Linda Fulmer. All these people will get to vote in the county election, the county meeting, not election, but county meeting, the election of the members at large, January 11th. You can vote in person or by proxy. Now, I don't think the Harguests are here, but Nancy and Sean Harguest. Richard Lund. I don't think Lori Jordan is here. And Connie Mays, Richard Mays, they couldn't come, they're out of town, they're having a grandchild. Bucky Marshall. Earl Marshall. Barbara Miller? No? Okay. Debbie McDonald is sick, but Steve, why don't you take her certificate? I want you back up here. Now, they already got their name tags, but I wanted them up here for their certificate and to get their picture took. So we'll have to do it again with Debbie. Janet, do you want to receive this for your husband, Donna? Or Don? Okay, Don, you want to come up here? Janet worked hard recruiting a number of these people. Marvin Muchler and Tika Muchler. I kind of have Tika's at the end. I have to get it. Because you won't be official until later this week. You're at the Board of Supervisors in 2 days. But they assured me.
You came in by the Canadians.
Barb and Robert Nowlin couldn't be here, but pray for them. Their son had an injury. His neck needs to be fused, and they were all about to do the surgery, and they found out that their insurance didn't cover it. So they're praying and trying to figure out what to do about that. Lori Pierce. Thank you for coming. Shar Piles. Darlene Zanto. Now Now the deadline for appointing PCs is over. Thank you.
Okay, now, you guys got us good. Should some be in front? Yeah, some go in front. Or do two pictures? Okay, the right side of the stage is heavier than the left. Okay. There. Yeah, why don't the shorter ones just go right? There's a big hole in it. Please smile. No, don't say Okay, one more for you guys. Are you guys really smiling?
We don't have a meeting in December, but we will in January. Of course, the county meeting and the state meeting is in January. We'll fill you in about how to do that. If you want to attend, we encourage you to attend the county meeting, but if you don't want to, make sure you give your proxy vote to someone in your precinct that you trust that will vote your way. All right? Next, check out our website,
What date is the county meeting?
January 11th. And all that information will be on our website and is on our website. Check out our website. We usually tag that onto our emails that we send out often. If I sent you a piece of paper, if I gave you a piece of paper asking you what contact list to be on, get that back to me so that I can know what your wishes are. On our website, which is LD1ArizonaGOP.us, check out the action page. We have information there about the amnesty immigration bill that's kind of circulating about what's going to happen with that. You might have heard that Boehner said that it's not going to go anywhere. Before he said that, McCain had said that they're going to try and pass it, comprehensive immigration, path to amnesty. They're going to try and pass that after the GOP primaries. And then Boehner came out and said there would be no conference with the Senate immigration bill. And I put up there another link, kind of that counteracted that said the U.S. business leader remains confident Boehner will seek immigration reform. So there's information on our website. There's a roster page. Your name is up there on the roster page. You can see who all is in your precinct. There's meeting information, so check out our website sometime. If you're interested in knowing more about what's going on in the Republican Party in Arizona, contact Frosty Taylor, and we often send this out too, especially in meeting notices. But Frosty Taylor does the Republican briefs, and her email is repcomm@cox.net. And she'll get you on the list and send you happenings and information and links. It's like the Drudge Report for the Republican Party. Yes, REP as in Paul, COMM@cox.net. Lots of great information. If you want to know who's running for office, it's on there, all right? And then at the EGC meeting last Thursday, we meet the first Thursday of every month. That's where all the chairmen go to meet and have their meeting. Sometimes we vote on resolutions. The EGC stands for Executive Guidance Committee. I encourage everybody to go and hold your chairman accountable, me, accountable for how I vote there and for what I do there. So anyway, at the last meeting, we passed a resolution to censure Governor Brewer and 14 senators and representatives. Senator Pierce is one of them, sadly to say we have to do this, who went against their precinct committeemen, their constituents, and the Republican Party platform to stand with the Democrats and Obama to set up the Medicaid exchanges in Arizona. Just so you know how I voted, I voted for the censure. Again, if you don't agree with my vote, talk to me. I can explain why I vote certain, the way I did. But I want you to know what's going on. EGC meets first Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. Kind of goes to about 9. Sometimes we don't get out of there till 10. All right. I'm going to let Tom Jenny come up here. Tom Jenny with Americans for Prosperity. And speak a little while and give lots of time for questions. And you have until 7:40. Then our next speaker will be here. And I'm going to pass this around for County Assessor Paul Peterson. We haven't seen this before. There's nobody else, I think, running against you.
Not yet.
Yeah. So if you'd like to help him out with signatures.
So the acoustics in this room are amazing, and I usually don't need a microphone anyway, but I really don't need one in this room. I'm kind of wondering how in the world they designed this place. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, so I assume most all of you can hear me pretty clearly. Okay. Thank you for letting me be here. Thank you, Kathy and Judy, for letting me be here, and thanks for your service to this country. As Abraham Lincoln said, the most important person in this country, the most important elected office is the precinct committeeman, and so you're the ones who really make everything happen. And I'm not allowed to be partisan in my work. When I'm wearing my work hat, I'm not allowed to be partisan, but I will tell you, you are extremely important. So I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're taking time. How many of you actually got a chance to watch the movie? Almost everybody. A few of you came in a little bit late, but most of you saw the movie. And I'll say one thing about the assessor's job. It's not his fault. when your tax bill is unreasonable, or at least I would say it's probably not his fault. So someday when this gentleman is your county assessor, I'm not taking a position whether he should be or not, because I'm not allowed to endorse candidates or parties or anything in this position. But when and if and when he's your county assessor, you'll get your tax bill may be completely outrageous. That is probably not his fault, unless you have a tough shed on your property and his office thinks that it's part of your living room. Then you probably have something to complain about with him. But most of the time, the reason your taxes are too darn high is because the people who are in the taxing district, that's your city councilman, that's your county board of supervisors, that's the people on your school board. In many cases, it's your neighbors who voted for the bond increase or the school district override. Those folks are the ones who are actually at fault for your taxes being out of whack. It's usually not your assessor, unless you find everybody else in your neighborhood that has a house like yours is being has a valuation of $100,000, and your house for some reason is the exact same house as everybody else, and it's valued at $300,000. Yeah, take that to him, and he'll probably fix it. Most assessors are pretty good about these things. So that's just what I want to let you know is boy, we had this. People were screaming mad about their property taxes about 5 years ago. Kind of a funny thing in economics, we used to think that the supply of housing, not me particularly, but the people who are just textbook economists thought taxing property was a pretty darn good way to tax property because people can't leave their houses. At least that was the assumption. And so the supply curve just stays pretty darn straight up and down. And so the idea is that it's just there's no dead weight loss in textbook economics associated with taking your property tax from you. It just goes from you to the government. There's no slippage. But as we found out during the Great Recession, actually there is quite a lot because people can just walk away from their houses, and the value of those houses can drop like a rock. So we're finding out stuff all the time. Like when we passed that bill 3 years ago, we had to find out what was in it. So it's a constant process of learning. I'm here to help you try to figure things out. So Obamacare. The first question, relevant question, if you saw the movie, was how close are we in America right now to being in that situation? There's a lot of misunderstandings that people have about government healthcare rationing. It actually says in the Obamacare bill several places that there shall be no rationing. Do you believe that?
No.
It's actually true. It says in multiple places in the bill that there will be no rationing of healthcare services. But they're talking about a very, very precise definition of rationing. In fact, in Canada, they don't really have, in most provinces, they don't really have rationing. What they have is global budgeting. So what they do is they basically tell a hospital system, okay, we're going to pay for X number of hip transplants during the year, or we're going to pay for your MRI machine to run for so many hours, and then after that, we're not paying for it anymore. You can still do it, but we're not going to give you any money. Does that make sense? So what do the people do in these healthcare systems? They're overworked. They've got, they've got too much going on already, and at the margin, they find out that, oh, we're not going to get paid anymore for running this MRI machine another hour. So what do? They don't run it. So it's pretty darn simple. What we're looking at in Obamacare, this is my kind of handy chart that I handed out to everybody. There's 4 major parts of Obamacare. And for the Democrats in the audience, you can call it the Affordable Care Act if you like. I tend to not call it the Affordable Care Act. Have any of you seen that movie, The Princess Bride? Yeah. The guy keeps saying over and over, Inigo keeps saying over and over, I do not think that word means what you think it means. And someone posted that on my webpage, they said, affordable. I do not think this word means what you say it means. It's not affordable, as we're finding out. Medicare, that's for people over the age of 65. Some of you might be old enough to get on Medicare soon. Maybe in a few years. So I want you to think about this. You're not there yet, but I want you to think about this. This is probably one of the areas where we are closest to what the Canadian system has to offer. What we will get in Medicare, if things continue as planned, is something called the Independent Payments Advisory Board. How many of you have heard of the Independent Payments Advisory Board, also known as IPAB? Okay. This is big. If you're thinking about being on Medicare, this is probably the biggest thing you need to think about, other than the cuts that are already in place for Medicare Advantage. What is happening in Medicare broadly? People in this country are over the age of 65. What is happening broadly is that they are taking huge amounts of money under Obamacare. The plan is to take huge amounts of money out of Medicare and use that money to finance Medicaid expansion and the insurance exchanges, okay, which are basically new entitlements, these 2 programs, okay? So they're taking money from Medicare and putting it into those 2 programs. How are they going to take money away from Medicare? Well, for one thing, you have to let it happen. There is a huge amount that you can do to stop that process of taking the money away from Medicare and plowing it into these new entitlements. We'll talk about that. But basically, they're trying to cut $716 billion over the next 10 years out of Medicare and plow that into these new entitlements. How many of you have already noticed in Medicare that it takes a while for you to get an appointment? Much longer than it took you when you were working. I guess nobody in this room is actually old enough to be on Medicare. Okay, but have you heard of people who are on Medicare who have some time, it's taking them a while to get an appointment for something? Have you heard people talk about that?
It's more finding a doctor that'll still take Medicare patients.
Right, yeah, so if you can't even find a doctor, that's part of the waiting process. This is one of the great truths about economics, is that just because the government puts a price ceiling on something, doesn't mean that suddenly the cost is reduced. You will pay for that some other way. If they set the market, if they set the rate, if they set the price ceiling below the market rate, below the price where people want to give you a greater service, you will pay for that. Not necessarily in dollars, but in time. And unfortunately, as we saw in the Canadian experience, in medicine, time means the big 3 Ds. Disability, discomfort, and the other one. Mort can tell you about that. Death. So this is the big problem. What they're going to do under the IPAB is that IPAB it's an unelected board of 15 bureaucrats. It could be 15. They're having trouble right now. Obama hasn't sent any of these people for Senate confirmation. So what it is right now, it's one bureaucrat. Her name is Kathleen Sebelius. But she's pretty competent, right? She's done a really good job with the healthcare.gov website. Kathleen Sebelius is right now the IPAB. They'll probably eventually put more people on this thing, if you allow this thing to keep going. And what they're going to do is these 15 people, it's going to be kind of like the BRAC Commission, the Base Realignment and Closing, which has been one of the most effective ways of cutting federal government spending that we've ever seen. This is like BRAC on steroids. So what this will do is the 15 people on this board, or however many people are on this board, will basically send a slate of Medicare cuts to Congress. And Congress has at that point 2 choices. They can either accept, vote with a majority vote to approve the cuts to Medicare, or they have to get a 3/5 majority. How many of you have your constitutions, Andy? You see anywhere in the Constitution where it says that you can require a 3/5 majority for, it's not in there. You don't have to look, or you can look later, it's not in there. So they're going to require future Congresses, a Congress in 2010 is going to bind future Congresses to a 3/5 vote to overturn the IPAB cuts. And, by the way, they can't just send them back to the drawing board. If they overturn the IPAB cuts to Medicare, Congress has to come up with cuts of the same size to Medicare. Interesting, isn't it? So the Goldwater Institute has a lawsuit, which is the pretty obvious lawsuit, which is that this is unconstitutional. They can't do this. It's really funny. They actually have a window. They say that during a short window in 2017, the Congress of 2017 declares the Congress of 2010 may, for 1 year, repeal the IPAB. After that, it can't be repealed. It's a little crazy. So I can't even believe they wrote that stuff in there because it's so clearly unconstitutional. It's even impractical in a certain sense because no Congress in 2017 or 2018 or 2019 is going to care at all what they said in 2010 if they don't feel like doing it. So, and the biggest way that they won't feel like doing it is if you put a ton of pressure on them. So what I suggest to people, how many of you have been to Google, www.google.com? Well, there's a lot of search engines like that, but and this is just an example, so I'm not necessarily endorsing Google, but one thing you can do is set yourself up a Google alert. It's really easy to do. You go to Google, just type in Google Alerts, they'll tell you how to do it. Well, what it will do is it'll send you an email every time, and I'm suggesting you put the words Independent Payments Advisory Board into that Google alert. And it will send you an email when that phrase appears in a major national news story. Keep track of what that's doing. I know how many of you actually get our AFP emails? Just a couple of you. Okay, so we're going to try to keep you informed about this thing as it goes forward. But just to make sure, just in case we're not giving you enough information, make sure that you put that thing in a Google alert so that you know what's happening with that board as it moves along. This thing is becoming more and more and more unpopular. There's a congressman in Tucson named Ron Barber. He's of the Democratic persuasion. He didn't vote for Obamacare, but he worked for Gabby Giffords when she did, and he has not joined the effort to repeal Obamacare. This is a guy who he is not a man of the right. Let me tell you that. He's not a conservative. But because the pressure has been so intense, because of pressure we're putting on him and pressure people like you are putting on him, he has actually co-sponsored a bill to repeal IPAB. So, unless your congressman is just a total commie, and the guy or gal is actually in a district where they're a little bit afraid of losing They are under pressure to, now, none of these people has actually signed up to repeal the thing, which is the right thing to do. But they are feeling the pressure. So we got to keep that pressure on them. So that's really big, big, big stuff. Okay, yeah. So I don't know how long did you want to go?
Until 7:40.
Okay, so and that's it. The show's over at 7:40. Okay, good. Okay, I didn't know how long I had. All right, but nobody does, right? Yeah, let's hit it.
Well, actually, it's almost a statement I read the other day that because of the iPad has become so unpopular that they've changed the name to, don't quote me on this, but it's like the Health Technology Insurance Administration or something. HTIA or something to that effect. But they've thought about, they're changing the name from iPad because that's associated with death panels and people are starting to catch on to that.
Yeah, it's funny how these politicians just changed the name of the government agency. So you all know the Common Core is no longer Common Core in Arizona, thanks to Governor Brewer. Yeah, she's changed the name to College and Career Ready Standards. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's all right. I don't know if that's the actual change. There's a couple things that were in play, but there's these funny names. You can't even make this stuff up. There's something called the Federal Coordinating. This is in order for the government to decide which procedures are good for the average person, and then defund the procedures they don't think are worth doing. And they're going to try to tell doctors how to do medicine. They have something called the Federal Coordinating Council on Comparative Effectiveness Research. FCCCER. And I don't know, how would you pronounce that acronym? Yeah. I'll let you think about that. You can't make this stuff up.
I got one question, one statement. I'm just curious, with your knowledge of healthcare, is there any model anywhere in the world that they can possibly mimic or copy to bring this at least back to the system that we had? Because I don't think there's anybody out there that even approached what we had. And also, a good image, to me anyway, of what this is going to be. I would imagine everybody heard about the TSA agent that was shot at the airport in LA. But does everybody know that he laid there for a half an hour? The police would not let anybody into the terminal, even though the ambulance was 40 feet away. They left him there for 33 minutes until they cleared the airport. So that's Obamacare. That's the bureaucracy. That's how they function. And we will be on the receiving end of that bureaucracy, period. And I mean period. Not like Obama says it. I mean period.
Yeah, I think we need to go back to something like we had in this country before 1952. But obviously with the modern technology and everything, I don't want to go back to 1952 because they barely had penicillin at that point. I think it was like 20 years old at that point. What we want to do is go back to a system where we have real insurance. Everybody in this country, unless you have millions and millions of dollars and you're willing to lose some of those millions, everybody needs to have a high deductible, catastrophic plan that covers you when the really bad stuff happens to you. And since 1952, long story, we've gotten this crazy government insurance, big business amalgamation that has attached itself to the real health insurance system in this country. And we need to cut away as much of that as we can and get back to real insurance, because real insurance is very, very useful. As far as countries that are close to doing it right, Singapore is pretty darn good. And before you tell me that Singapore is a third world country, their per capita GDP right now is higher than ours. So I've had, it's a third world country. No, it's not. It's a modern developed country. And they spend about 1/3 of the amount that we do as a portion of GDP on healthcare. So that's one thing to look at. Have a real insurance system, and then you've got to have charity and possibly government to help really down and out cases where someone is absolutely uninsurable.
Sorry. I was reading, this is a while ago, regarding the Obamacare, as far as actually, they were trying to push schools or actually medical colleges, they were stating that they would have to have a certain percentage of minority students accepted into the school, or actually the school to receive federal funding. And I don't know if that's actually true or not, but that's what I was reading, probably 6 months ago. So.
I don't know. One of the big things that is happening in medical schools, which is very dangerous, is what my friend, physician, surgeon, Dr. Jeff Singer, calls the veterinary ethic of medicine. And that is being very much inculcated in our medical schools. And there are two things that happen. One, it's the cookie cutter approach that the FCCCER, I think there's actually 4 C's in there anyway. However you pronounce that acronym, which I shouldn't say because I'm in a church. But whatever that group is, they're going to be looking to create this cookie cutter kind of medical care where the physician of the future goes to a computer screen and reads what the government thinks is the approved thing to do in that situation. And it may be good for that situation if you're average. The question is, how many people in this room feel like you're average? Yeah. Or maybe you'd really rather have the doctor thinking very creatively about how to treat you. And that's the scary thing about what's happening in medical schools right now, is also the veterinary ethic. That's the other big scary thing, is that in the veterinary ethic, the real customer is the owner, whoever's paying. In the old Hippocratic Oath, the customer, the patient, is the focus of what a doctor does. That's the real focus. Now it's whoever's paying, whether that's the insurance company, whether that's the government, which increasingly it'll be the government. And that's very scary because you and I, we all love our pets. At least I hope you do. And maybe we are looking out for our pets. But I just don't think that Kathleen Sebelius and I have that same relationship. I don't think she's going to scratch me behind my ears, and pet me, and wake up in the middle of the night to look after me. So I'm a little afraid of getting into the veterinary ethic. I hope you all are too.
One more question.
I have a question. Prior to 1952, did some insurance companies cover pre-existing conditions, or does anybody know?
For the most part, no. Insurance is gambling. Now it's socially useful gambling. It's the kind of gambling that results in good things happening, which is you as someone who cannot afford millions. If you can afford millions of dollars in healthcare, let's talk, because you could also afford to make a big donation to my organization. But you as a person who can't afford huge amounts of health expenditures are, for a relatively small price to you, trading that risk to an insurance company. It's a bet. And the system is not designed for them to take a bet on you knowing that they're going to lose the bet. It's got to be a bet. So there has to be some probability that you're not going to get sick. So, but what they were doing, what actually existed and was getting bigger and bigger as a portion of insurance is what they call health status insurance. So you're not only covered against a risk that something bad might happen to you this year and you might get sick. You are also able to buy a rider that would insure you in case you suddenly got a permanent health status change. Like you suddenly get diagnosed with diabetes, or you're a very late starter for type 1 or something like that. And so you suddenly are diagnosed with something that's going to be a lifelong condition. And so, of course, your premiums would go up and up and up because of that, because you're now a huge risk. The health status portion of that insurance is for a small price now, is to protect you from having to pay huge premiums. The insurance company would end up paying your higher premiums for the rest of your life, for as long as you wanted to keep that policy. And so that's the way that private health insurance deals with the pre-existing condition problem. And at the margin, there's going to be people, and especially as they do genetic testing, more and more people we're going to find out, the insurance companies are going to be like, wow, we can't insure you because we just did a blood test on you and you're a high risk for this lifetime condition. And so we have to figure out what to do. I mean, one of the great things is with interstate competition, you could have those people in big pools.
Right.
So maybe there's a few thousand people who have that condition, and maybe that's now a decent bet for the insurance companies.
Sure.
And then it goes back to charity. At the end of the day, there are people out there who are really sick, and And I would argue, and I'm in a good place to do that here in this church, I would argue that you and I have an obligation to take care of them. But not through government necessarily.
No.
Can you stick around?
Thank you very much, Tom. And also, I hear a rumor that Tom has a whole bunch of copies of that movie, if
Yes.
anybody would like one,
Yes.
at no charge.
Wow.
Yeah,
Isn't
please,
that great?
please show it to your friends.
Yes.
Yes, and show it to as many people, share it around. And like I said, see Tom and he'll get you a movie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Paul Peterson, your new county assessor filling in for Keith Russell. If you have questions about your property taxes, want to understand how they assess that, now's the time to find out. You can go to Bob.
All right, I think my voice will carry like Tom, so if I need to speak up, just yell at me. Also, he doesn't know, since he said don't blame me, I'm just going to follow him around all the meetings and just speak after him. I think that'll work out well. Is that all right with you, Tom?
Hey, it's okay.
All right, so I asked to come back to this meeting in March because that's when we're going to send out the notices of value. I'll shoot out in February, and I'll come do actually a presentation, and we can get in depth about your notice of value and what I do and explain some of the things that Tom touched on. So I want to take this opportunity to introduce myself to all of you, let you know a little bit about me and a little bit about the office, and then open it up for questions. All right, so anyway, my name is Paul Peterson. I am the Maricopa County Assessor. I was appointed 3 months ago by the Board of Supervisors. I'm a Republican. I was appointed nationally by them. I've been a Republican my whole life since I was 18 anyways. I registered right after I turned 18 because that was the right thing to do and that's what I wanted to do. I'm a native Arizonan. How many of you are natives? So anytime I query people about that, there's always only a very few that are natives to Arizona. It's just the way it is. But let me ask another question. How many of you have lived here at least 10 years? All right, so if you've lived here 10 years, I consider you natives because you're not going anywhere. And for the rest of you, I'm sure you'll hit your 10 years and then you'll be in the club too. So let me just tell you that. I grew up on the other side of town. I went to Westwood High School in Mesa. I graduated 20 years ago from Westwood High School. I went to Arizona State University, got my undergrad in journalism and my law degree as well. I'm a practicing lawyer. That's my background. As far as in the office itself, let me back up. I'll tell you a little bit of my personal life. I am married. I have 2 children. I have a daughter that's 5, and I have a son that's 3, and I have 1 on the way, due in February, right? So I tell this story to everybody, but about a month ago, we were going to go see the doctor, and he was going to tell us what we were having. I was very excited. You know, I want to find out if I'm going to have another boy or girl. My wife informed me, no, we will not be finding out. It's going to be a surprise. And I was disappointed, but of course I'm not in charge of that decision. That's whatever you like, honey, that sounds great. And when she told the doctor that, and he told us, and he got a little grin on his face, and he said, well, let me tell you something. When people used to tell me that they wanted to be a surprise, he says, the chart I write up for the patients, he said, in order, what I would write on that to give the hospital so the hospital wouldn't spill the beans about what they were having when they were in the hospital, he would write no sex on those charts. He said, problem is he got in trouble one time because one of his patients said, I want you to tell me what you're having. She goes, I know I'll be weak though, Dr. Beck, so please don't tell me what I'm having no matter how much I beg. And on her chart he wrote no sex even if she begs. Got him in trouble with the hospital, so now he writes no gender, so my wife's chart will say no gender. So I thought I would share that. I thought that was funny when he told me that story. As far as the office itself, I've worked in the assessor's office for nearly 8 years. I was the public information officer and the legislative liaison at the office. So I worked for the former county assessor, Mr. Russell, about a year after he came in, he hired me. I've taken all the level 1 and level 2 classes that the Department of Revenue does, that all the new appraisers have to take. So I have a fundamental understanding of what our job does and what the appraisers do. So I'm sure that assisted me when I applied for the vacancy that occurred. Oh, I didn't tell you that the reason Keith left, he's a great guy, I consider him my mentor, and he's a good assessor. Great reputation around Arizona. He left because he was able to take an appointment as Justice of the Peace in East Mesa. Unfortunately, in my district, there was a Justice of the Peace who decided he wanted to shoplift a $40 pair of speakers. And you cannot have judges that do that, you know. So they needed to find someone else to replace him, and Keith took that job. And that's why the opening happened in the assessor's office. Real quick about the assessor's office itself, we have 325
employees in the office, which it's a large office. It's the 4th largest county office as far as staff in Maricopa County, behind the sheriff, county attorney, and clerk of the court. We have a budget of almost $24 million a year. So, leading into a little bit about what we do, our mission, my mission is to locate, identify, and value all property in Maricopa County. Notice I didn't say tax. Notice Mr. Jenny didn't say tax either. I do not do the taxes. There's a nice gentleman, great treasurer named Haas Hoskins. He's the treasurer. He collects the tax, when even he doesn't levy the tax or has anything to do with the taxes himself. I assess a value, and Mr. Hoskins collects the tax. It's the jurisdictions that set the rates and decide how much they're going to collect from all of you based on the values that I give them. Nevertheless, I think it's important that you have somebody who is conservative, not only in outlook, but in temperament to lead an office like this. Being such a large jurisdiction, we have a levy that's in the hundreds of billions of dollars. And as all of you know, if I ask you this question, let's see, I'm sure some of you will know. If you look at your property tax bill, what's the largest portion of your bill? Where does it go?
School.
Fire department. What did you say? There's always one guy. There's always one. I appreciate that, though. Yes, it's schools. Schools. If you add up the community colleges and your local school districts, it's about 60 to 70% of your tax bill goes to schools. The point of that is if a local tax should go to a local jurisdiction. Now, we can discuss whether or not they're doing it effectively and whether they're being good stewards of your money. That's another argument. But the fact is most of your property tax goes to schools. There's not a state property tax and so forth. So, one thing I will tell you, and I will commit to all of you, having been in the legislature for 8 years and seeing how it works and all the things that go on down there, there are a lot of groups that will represent certain, I won't call them special interests, but other organizations that want to lower property taxes for, we'll call it a special interest. And they may have a good reason for doing so, but nobody really ever represents homeowners. It just doesn't happen. Maybe the closest person would be Kevin McCarthy, who runs a really good organization. But I commit to you as assessor because I go down there every day and talk to the legislators about having sound fundamental property tax policy. I will not support any property tax shift from one class to another unless it's equal. Because I think that there's been enough shifting going on under the homeowners, and we need to make sure that you are all protected, and I do that as part of my job as the Maricopa County assessor. So I will do that. I commit to you to all that. I will do that. How much time do I have? 10 minutes?
Maybe 5 more minutes, then ask some questions.
5 more minutes.
Take
All right. One more thing about myself. I have enough time I can tell you this. I told you I'm a practicing attorney. 90% of my practice now, I do adoption law, and I've done that for over 10 years. So my experience in adoption law has affected me greatly. It's enjoyable. I can tell all of you that not everyone's happy with a case when you have a legal case. There's always a winner and a loser. It's not so in adoptions. That's the only area of law I've gravitated to it because of this, that everyone's happy with the end result. Birth parents are happy, adopted parents are happy, even the judge is happy. So I really appreciated doing that. Because of that, I'm also 100% pro-life, because I know that no child is ever unwanted. And that has been my personal experience, and so that's another little thing about myself. But let's just take some questions. I'm sure some of you have some.
Where does the funding for your office come from?
The funding for my office comes from the Board of Supervisors, and one portion of your tax bill comes to fund Maricopa County government. A very tiny portion of that is administrative, and I would fall under that. So through my office is funded through property tax, and then what other of the revenue Maricopa County generates through shared sales tax and things like that.
I tried to challenge my taxes at one point.
Could you speak into the mic, please?
I tried to challenge my taxes at one point, and it turned into the county or the taxing authority using their attorneys to fight me. They wanted me to get an appraisal on my property to prove that that my assumption of what my property was worth was valid. They also wanted me to hire an attorney to come in and fight my taxes, and between the appraisal fee, the attorney's fee, the time necessary to go down, it just wasn't worth it. So I took it in the shorts only because that was the only option I had. What programs do you have available for normal, ordinary property owners to challenge their tax valuations that doesn't break them?
Can I ask you a question? Was that a residence or business?
It was a residence.
When was that?
It was 2009.
You know, and I don't know the particulars of your particular situation, and we can talk about it later if you want, but for that's very unusual for residents, for my office to want to go and hire lawyers to challenge you once you file a petition. The way it starts, okay, so just real quick, if you want to appeal your taxes and get your tax bill and you say, oh my gosh, dang it, this looks too high, it's way too late. Don't wait until you get your tax bill. That's the wrong time to try to appeal. It's too late. You have to appeal what my office sends out, which is your property valuation, number one. We send that out every February. You're going to get your 2015 property valuation before March 1st from my office. I urge all of you to look at that. Number one, because it has lots of different information on there, and number two, because it's the only way you can appeal, which effectively is the only way you can affect your property tax bill. So as far as for homeowners, and I'm sorry that happened to you, and we can talk about that after. I'll stick around and talk to you, give you some circumstances, but you can file online. You do not have to come to my office. It should not cost anything to file an appeal. We call it an administrative level appeal. It's free. You can do it online. You can look up the comps at my office or on your computer at home, and basically file your appeal online. At least that's what we do it for homeowners. You know, for businesses, because there's different ways they can appeal. They can use an income approach to valuation, or they can use a cost approach and other things. It's a little more complicated. A lot of businesses end up hiring agents and so forth to help them. But as far as programs, there is no cost to file an appeal with us. If you disagree with us, you can go to what's called the State Board of Equalization, which is an independent board that hears appeals from us. It's also free. It does not cost anything. You do not have to have a lawyer to do that. If you disagree there, you can actually file in tax court. And that does cost a little bit. It's about $150 or so to file a tax appeal. If it's small claims, $2 million or under, you don't need an attorney. If it's over $2 million, you may. And that's just in a nutshell the way that the appeals in our office go. So I would stress to all of you that you just need to pay attention to the valuations that come out from our office next in March. And here's the other thing. When we send these valuations out, notice I said 2015 notice of value, because the value I send out in February next year will not be used for your tax bill until 2015. Arizona just has a very complicated property tax system. If I am able to be in the assessor's office for a while, depending on what the voters decide, one of the things I'm going to try to do is maybe simplify that approach, because a confusing system does not do justice to the people who are served by it. One other thing real quick too, that should help property owners. You all passed something called Prop 117 last year. My office sends out two values: full cash value, limited property value. Full cash value is synonymous with market. So when you think, what's my home worth? Look at the full cash value. That's the value we set. Limited property value is just a calculation based off the full cash value that's set in statute. And all of your taxes were based on these two values, which could be different from each other. It's very confusing. Plus, we had these market swings. You all remember in 2006 when it went crazy, we were seeing appreciation 20, 30% a year. Then what happened? Bottom fell out and crashed, right? And so the valuations were falling, but you were paying taxes based on when your valuations were high. That ticks people off, right? And people don't like that. And so what happened is Prop 117 was passed, and it moved all property tax calculations based on the limited property value, which is the second value. And the limited property value can go up no more than 5% per year. That doesn't mean your tax bill will only go up 5% a year, because it depends on what these jurisdictions set their budgets at and what people, like when people overrides and things like that, what they do. However, it will give some stability and consistency to what you can expect will happen with your assessments, because they can only go up 5% a year. So look at that. We're going to do a big notice that explains all of that stuff, and I'm going to send that out in February. I know it was kind of a long-winded answer, and I'm sorry about that, but I would love to talk to you afterwards and talk about specifics of your situation.
when I say something totally ignorant, I like to admit it. When I say something totally ignorant, I like to admit it as quickly as possible. And I did not remember that you are the sitting assessor of the county. And I apologize for that. So.
That's not a problem. You know,
But it's still not your fault.
Yeah, it's still not
Most
my
of the
fault.
time.
It's still not my fault. He said that, right? So that's true. It's definitely not
But
my
I
fault.
do have a question.
Yes.
So have you talked to the people from Prop 13 Arizona, and are you interested in their latest effort? If you have, were you interested in the old efforts, and are you interested in their new tax relief efforts?
I haven't spoken to them personally. However, with the passage of Prop 117, I would rather not support another change until we see how this works. I think we need to work with what the voters have passed and say, well, let's do Prop 13 style system in Arizona. When we just try to do something to limit property values, it would be counterproductive. So I probably wouldn't support that right now until we see how the effect of Prop 117 works in Arizona itself, which is similar to a Prop 13 system. There are some significant differences, but the main thing is that it does limit the growth of your property values. And let me tell you, we all know the values have improved, right? We've seen that. Well, I'll tell you that when we're looking at the data that my office can put out, single-family homes have gone up 20+%. They're going to go up in this next valuation. People are going to say, here we go again, Paul. Same thing we saw before. Went high and then we're going to crash again. I wouldn't necessarily disagree with all of you if you said that. So the nice thing is the fact that even though the valuations that we send out will go up 20%, the valuation that all your taxes will be based on is only going to go up 5. It's capped at 5. So remember that. Thanks for the question. I got one more minute, I think. 30 seconds.
6 minutes.
Oh, I was 6. Or we can leave early, and that's also good. Whatever you. I didn't want to say also that was impressive that you had that many PCs appointed. I've never seen more PCs appointed than were actually in the United States. That's a first. So congrats to all of you who were appointed. Any other questions? Well, I look forward to serving you as county assessor. I hope you all have a chance to sign my petition. I need 7,000 signatures approximately just to be safe to get on the ballot. As you know, Maricopa County is a big county. I have to run next year to finish out the remaining part of Keith's term, so I hope I can have your support and vote. Thank you.
So we'll have you back in March,
All right.
third Monday? Okay, and so if you can stay a little while, we can talk to you. All right, our next speaker is Cindy Moulton, our CAP representative. They really have a hard time saying Central Arizona Water Conservation District. My name is Cynthia Moulton. Go by Cindy, of course. Not a lot is really happening at CAP right now, and as you all probably know, that the Navajo generating station is under assault, by the EPA. I did attend the Phoenix, I am getting old here. The hearings related to that. It was only, I would guess 250, maybe 300 of most people attended that. It was well defended by the irrigation districts, by the lawyers that are also representing the home builders, by CAP itself. We had at least, I'm going to guess maybe 75 people who were wearing yellow shirts that were busted from the Sierra Club, and they all had their opportunity to speak. We just do not know what the EPA is going to do. There is still opportunity if anybody wants to write a comment, reference the Navajo generating station. We have until like the January 1st to complete those, and then they'll start making their decision accordingly. There's really not a whole lot going on except for that. And do you guys have any questions for me?
Cindy, I just wondered, you said we could make a comment. Can you elaborate on that a little more? I'd like to try to contact them, but I'm a little unsure of exactly what we're talking about.
Sure. Really, you need to go to the website, and I don't even have that information here, but we can certainly send it out in an email. And you can just state the reasons why you feel the Navajo generating station needs to be left intact. I mean, CAP does get 90% of their electricity from that, as well as any electricity that's produced past the 90% that we use for our portion. We use that to pay off this huge billion-dollar debt that we still have, and we'll be paying through like 2040 to pay off that. I mean, it's a mess, really, you know, what we're going through. And the worst part of it all is even if the selective catalytic converters were, and the technology was available to even use it on the station, we don't even see that there's going to be any measurable improvement. And they're worried about haze over the Grand Canyon. You know, they're not worried about the particulates and whatnot that are traveling from Japan and around the world up in our atmosphere out there. There's just so many issues. And we can send out, if you would like, what the CAP is basically produced for the public to write in their comments. The more comments, it can't hurt.
Hey, Director Moulton, I wanted to say thank you very much. The Americans for Prosperity Foundation chapter here in Arizona every year does a survey, a scorecard on local government taxing districts. And with the Central Arizona Water Conservation District, you have been on that board for 2 votes that we've recorded, and your cumulative score, average for the past 2 years, is friend of the taxpayer. So we're very happy. Thank you.
My comment is that I may not always keep a friend of the taxpayer status, but I'm going to try to do the best I can for with the information that I have, that will be the benefit of Arizona and the people of Arizona. And thank you for that.
Any other questions?
Do we have any new business? Then, seeing none, last chance for the raffle. If anyone would like to buy a ticket for the raffle, it makes a nice gift. Healthy treats for the dog. Anybody else? Then we're going to open it up for our open mic comments. If you'd like to give a comment or an announcement, especially if there's any other guests here who want to say something. Terry?
Thank you very much. It's more of an announcement. People may not know me. I'm the Vice President of River Hills Community Association. Just to let you know, December 10th is our next meeting. We have them up here at the fire station up the road here by Circle Mountain. Judge Clancy Jane's going to come out. It's in the evening, so Tuesday. It starts at 7:30, doors open at 7 o'clock. You know, it's good to talk to Clancy Jane, see what he can tell you about what's going on, how to say, well, you never know with simple products and legal stuff. But he's very good about it. It's going to be our Christmas meeting, so needless to say, there will be desserts, ice cream, fun stuff like that. I know Judy was at our last meeting. I think she had fun. We had the Archaeological Society guy out. It's not a political thing. It's more like neighborhood stuff. We get a lot of people say they come out from the county. Like generally in December, Andy Canassa comes out, but he's going to be out of town that weekend, so that's why the judge is coming out. We get a lot of people out from the county or various other things where you can then share your issues, your problems, now to maybe rectify it and things like that. Yeah, and it's often good to be able to have a first-name basis with the judge. You never know. that you may want to talk to me about. But anyway, that's December 10th, up here at the fire station. The fire chief is always out there, so you get to meet him. Who knows? Could be interesting. Why not? Thank you.
Is that, don't you meet at the fire station at Toronto too?
No, and that's going to be the Friday before that. We have a day meeting at the Phoenix Fire Station in Toronto, but that's the Friday before the other meeting, so that one's going to be on the 10th, so that one will be on the 6th. That's a daytime meeting. This is the evening meeting, which is much more fun, because I don't know about you, but I work during the day, so, you know, that kind of fun stuff. But we do 2 different meetings.
Terry, maybe you could collect some emails, and, because I know, Terry, I get the emails, and they will send you out who the speakers are. So maybe you could get with Terry, and he can put you on the email list.
Yes, Judy, of course. Put my thumb here. I guess it kind of blocked out the noise. Thank you.
Just an announcement from Vera. Tomorrow night is the Daisy Mountain Tea Party Patriot meeting. And we are having Attorney General Tom Horn, who is the Attorney General candidate for 2014, and a Darren Mitchell, who is state representative from LD1. And whoever comes, please feel free to bring a donation for the Foothills Food Bank. I know they're really desperate. They just got a few turkeys in the other day, and we're giving out just little cards.
Now's your chance to make a comment if you want to inform somebody, or you're upset about something, or anything political. Last chance. Anyone want to have your say, have your piece?
Please sign the Exempt Me Now petitions, the Exempt Me 2 petitions. And
What's
we'll
that?
collect them as you leave.
Kathy and I went to the Christmas tree lighting at Anthem, which was really spectacular. Saturday night? Oh, my day is cool. And on our way there, we were discussing Medicare. From a nursing standpoint, Kathy had a huge concern about her, whether she should be on the Medicare insurance. And I can only tell you from 15 years of nursing and acute rehab in Sun City West, don't ever give up your rights to your Medicare. It is not perfect, but it is very good for the populace. I can see patients who had the same exact diagnosis that did not have Medicare, that could not go to acute rehab. And at one time, our unit was half transitional and half acute rehab. And the same patient did not get the same care because it didn't have Medicare. So just a little FYI on that. And I'm going to make one other comment after the movie that we saw. I can also tell you that right now in Arizona, I'm no longer a manager at the acute rehab unit out there, but I spent many, many, many hours down in the emergency room as a nurse who was going around, going from stretcher to stretcher that was in our hallways because our ERs are already overwhelmed. It is not going to be a pretty sight if it becomes like Canada. And people develop bed sores, incontinence. It is no food, no family, no socialization for hours. And we did a pretty good job. I mean, there was manager after manager when that ER was crowded. It's called Code Purple. That we were down there doing whatever we could to transport, to get them to where they needed. So it's, take care.
You said Medicare was better than private insurance.
Yes, then some private insurance. There are private insurances, like the people who are in the union and have the railroad Blue Cross Blue Shield, sure, they got there. There are policies out there that are great, but there's also policies. And Medicare Advantage, when you give up your rights to your Medicare, it's called Medicare Advantage, you still don't have the benefits that me personally, I will never give up until I have to.
many of you know someone who has lost their health care plan already? Tom, Jenny.
Well,
You
you
have a
have?
family.
Oh, wow. In the movie we saw tonight, or the documentary we saw tonight, people have to remember, I'm from Montreal, Quebec. That province has about 6 million people. This is the problem they're having with 6 million people. What about each state here? How many people are there? I mean, we have about 10 times the population of Canada here in the US. So this is really a big disaster. And I have to tell you, we moved here in 1981 to get away from socialism, and now it's here. So I'm very upset. I'm very upset about that. It's horrible.
Any solutions?
There's nowhere else to go.
Another comment, it looks like the mortality rate of Canada is going to go up once Obamacare kicks in, because nobody's going to be able to come down here for care.
Where do you go?
There's nowhere else to go when the government runs it.
They have to
No
work
choice.
with companies that-
I could go on and on about that, so.
There's time.
I was just gonna say, so a large part of it's and I didn't quite explain this, one of the big problems is the reimbursement rate. The question is, how much are doctors getting paid for a particular service? Right now, Medicare across the country pays 80% of what the private insurance, what good private insurance pays. Once they're paying, there may be deductibles and things like that, but once they're paying for a service, Medicare pays 80% of what private insurance pays. That's probably okay right now. Now, some doctors are leaving or at least are threatening to leave the Medicare system, and some of them are just having their front offices put you on hold. The financial people are just putting you on hold, which is why you're starting to see waiting lines, or at least long waits to get service in Medicare. Medicaid is much worse. The system that not we, but some of the legislators in this state and the governor voted to put another 250,000 or 500,000 people in the state into the Medicaid expansion. Medicaid, on average in this country, pays much, much less. It's about 53% of what private insurance pays. In some states, it's really low. New York, I believe, is down around 30%. So that is a system from which doctors are fleeing. And that's really bad, and you can start to see, if you look at the IHS system, the Indian Health Service, if you look at some of the stuff that goes on in the Veterans Administration, if you look at Medicaid, that's the really scary future. Unfortunately, Medicare is next, and there are big, big cuts slated for Medicare, so watch out. And the way it works is they will probably never say in Medicare, I hope we never get to a strict British system or something where they say, okay, we are rationing officially, and no one over the age of 72 can get a hip replacement. What it will be, though, is they'll have the budget, if it goes according to plan, they will have the budget for a given hospital of a certain size with so many patients, et cetera, and they will say, okay, you'll have the normal Medicare reimbursement rate for the first 100 patients per year. For the 101st patient and every patient after that who wants to get, over the age of 72, who wants to get a hip replacement, full hip, we're going to give you 1/5, 1/10. They'll basically cut the reimbursement rate a lot, or a little. But in any case, what you're going to start seeing is doctors, the hospital system will never say, oh no, we don't do that service, or oh no, you can't get it, but you'll have to wait, because you'll have to wait till the next fiscal year to be the first person, or somewhere between 1 and 100. So do you see how that works? So that's the way the global budgeting system works. That's all I have to say for now. I can talk to you all night long about this stuff, so we have to cut it off at some point.
Well, speak to him afterwards, and again with Mr. Peterson. If there's no more comments, we're going to do the raffle. Can you help me, Cindy? The ticket number is 444-861.
Yep.
Bingo.
I don't even have a dog.
861?
You should be, yeah.
Is that what you got?
No, I'm gonna use I'm retired.
Take a look at all the tickets.
Wow.
You have a dog? You might need that. It's probably good for humans too. It sounds like it's got to do.
Did you have 861?
I just wanted to mention the Facebook page.
Do we get that Facebook page?
Yes, please. Janet's in charge of our Facebook page. She does a fantastic job on our website. Check it out.
I don't know if you're aware, but we have a really good website too for LD1. I think if you haven't seen it yet, please visit it. But I've somehow become doing the Twitter and for Facebook, and I'd really appreciate it if you could go to, if you're all, I don't know how many of you are on Facebook, but if you can go to the Facebook page and then put in LD1 space Republican space AZ and then like the page, it'd really be helpful. And we're inviting other politicians or anybody who they want to comment on there. If you want to leave a comment, you can. I think some of the stuff's kind of interesting. I did put something on there the other day that Kathy did not think was appropriate. It was about Obama's mother's pictures that she took with Marshall Davis.
Oh, yes.
And she did not think it was appropriate for the president's mother to be on the display like that, so we took it off.
LD1 space Republican space AZ.
Oh, she does a great job. She puts on things that you need to know about. And I'm not really on Facebook, but this is what they're telling us, what the younger generation are into and how they communicate through Twitter and then Facebook. So this is our part of trying to reach the younger generation, getting them involved. Does someone have the clipboard for Mr. Peterson? Because I want to sign. I need to sign it. And then our next meeting will be January 20th with Diane Douglas, running for Superintendent of Public Instruction. She does not support the Common Core curriculum. So she'll be doing a presentation. It'll be very enlightening. Chuck?
Just one thing, I don't know, I get Clubback TV and all that, and I also get the notices, but I follow him on Facebook, and he actually posted a thing about Common Core, and it was a student in Tennessee.
Yeah, we
And
saw
it's probably
it.
one of the best arguments you could ever see, but if you see it, and,
It's
you know,
great.
tell somebody about it, just to share it, you know, because it's, I think as far as being, you know, effective for somebody that may not understand, or for somebody that's younger, they can look at it and say, okay, this is a student, and they're, you know, telling you what's wrong with it, so.
Great,
Where's
thanks.
that at? How do you use that?
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I do.
Ed moves, is there a second?
Second.
Steve McDonald, seconds, and the time is 8:21. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.